Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? I'm going to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Life podcast. And today we're just going to look at the power of wisdom and how wisdom can change anybody's life. I'm a living testimony that wisdom can change anybody's life. And that's why I'm here this morning to share with you the power of it. But I'm not just going to talk about myself. I'm going to talk about the man who was wisdom, the man who embodied the most wisdom on the planet, the one who got the most of it, the most measure of it. And that's exciting, just knowing that when we ask God of wisdom, then it's likely that He will give it to us. So, guys, I was reading this morning, reading in 1 Kings chapter 3. I love the story of Solomon. Do you love the story of Solomon? I'm going to pull up a couple. I had a couple texts here I want to jump over into today. But with Solomon's life, Solomon is the epitome of wisdom. And so if we look at 1 Kings chapter 3, we're going to pull that up really quick. If we look at 1 Kings chapter 3, share my screen with you so we can all read it and see it. 1 Kings chapter 3, that's what we're pulling up right now. And here's what the servant of the Lord, I'll call him the servant of the Lord, had to say. He says, verse 5, and in Gibeon. Now, here's the thing. Solomon went to Gibeon so that he could burn some offerings. They didn't have any church. They didn't have any place to go. So he had to go into the mountain of Gibeon in order to burn some offerings. And in the previous text, it talks about he took 1,000. He took 1,000 offerings to give. Guys, I want you to consider this. How much are we taking to God so that we can get what it is that God can give us? How much are we turning over to God so God can turn over to us what is ours? Solomon took 1,000 offerings and he gave that to the Lord that day. So the Lord was ready. He says, man, this king ready to do something big. And here's what it talks about. It says, in Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. Now, the thing, it's crazy because I did have a dream last night. And I think that's what kind of got me reeling this morning, because I had a dream. It's not every day you have a dream and remember the dream. It's not. And I remembered the dream. I'm not going to get into the details because there's not a whole lot of details, but there's enough of one detail that had me thinking, that led me right here to this text this morning. So it says, in Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask, what shall I give thee? Solomon's already king. He probably already got money. But here's the thing. What could he be asked for? He could have said, look, I want you to make sure that make sure that we can conquer all the people, make sure that we don't have any problems. He could have done all of that. He didn't technically have to ask for more wealth because he already had it, but he sure could have talked about beating up his enemies and taking over other thrones. He could have done that, but he didn't. And Solomon said, thou hast showed unto thy servant David, my father, great mercy. Great mercy for David, because even though David was the man after God's own heart, but he did some stuff now. According as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. So Solomon's being really humble here. God sets us up. God sets us up for some things in our life. Humility, we talked about service yesterday, and humility and service goes hand in hand. And here it is, Solomon's talking to God in his dream. And now, O Lord, my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in, and thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. He's just turning over to God, back to God. He says, look, you gave me some people here that's not mine. They're yours. And I don't really know what to do. I'm a child. He's continued to humble himself. Man, my brother had he said something funny one day. We were talking about this story. He says, man, yeah, he said all the right things. Yeah, he did say all the right things that day because we already know this story. He had to, he went and messed it all up, but he still said all the right things. God knew his heart and still gave it all to him. So then he says, give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? And the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said to him, because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor has asked the life of thine enemies, but has asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before, neither after thee shall any arise unto thee. I'm going to stop here and stop sharing, because you can go back and read the story. So, what is the power of wisdom? So Solomon knew, just like if you're running a business, just like I'm running a business, wisdom came before everything. God, and we don't even I think even that word is limiting. What can you say? The Almighty, the first, the last, the beginning, the end. This God, this being, like it's no word to describe. And in this person, in this being, is everything. So position yourself today. Think about your business, think about your life, think about big things. Think about how, not even how, think about, wow, wait a second. Everything that needs to be known is already known. I'm going to say that again. Everything that needs to be known is already known. And everything that you need to know, you already know it. Now, how can I say that? Well, God has already said everything to God has already said in you everything that he's ever going to say to you. I said that a couple of weeks ago. I got that from Bishop Wayne Malcolm. God has already said everything in you, everything that he's ever going to say to you. Think about this. God doesn't have to come back and say anything else to you. The wisdom is already trapped inside you. The wisdom is already there connected to you. So we then have to connect. Now, this is where the problem comes, because I've got to go to my good friend James. I got to go to my good friend James, because this is where we then have to say, okay, if I do ask for wisdom, what now? James says, let's make that bigger. James says, if you lack wisdom, let him or her ask of God, that giveth to all men and women liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. Lastly, but let him ask in faith, not wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. All right. This is where we're going to close up in a couple of minutes. So as I was preparing this morning, reading the word and asking God for wisdom, I asked God, well, God, I presented before him me. I want you to present yourself before God today, sometime today. Present yourself to him and ask for wisdom. Ask for wisdom. And it wasn't just this morning. It's been over the last, several weeks coming up with a better way to serve, a better way. And as I've been working on a better way to serve, it's so weird. Like this morning, have you ever come to a place where you could see things clearer? When clarity hits you like a ton of bricks? And I got this clarity actually just before I came on live today. This clarity comes over me. And it was almost like he says, "Thou hast granted your request. Now serve the people." And I'm going to tell you, like I could get emotional and shed a tear right now. Because as that happened, I could start seeing the power of service. I could start seeing the power, how wisdom being inside me, wisdom, and it's inside you. It gives you abilities. It gives you insights. It gives you knowledge. It gives you understandings that you yourself would not have had. So Solomon asked for this. He could have asked for more. And I think I used to pray for the wrong things. Come on now. Have you prayed for the wrong thing? Are you praying for money? Are you praying for cars? And are you praying for just all the things and stuff, when God said, just ask for the wisdom, son. Just ask for the wisdom. Because the wisdom is what you need to get where it is that you're trying to go. But let me do this. Let me drive the car for you. Or let me get into the car. Give me the key. Let me put it into the ignition. And this is what I'm talking to my son about just a few days ago, when I was sharing with him how God works on the planet. We have the key. We then have to allow God. God will even allow us to drive the car. He said, just let me in the car. Well, why don't you sit on my lap while I'm driving? When I'm not sure how old you are, but when I was a kid, I remember my dad, even my mom, I think, would let me sit on their lap and drive the car. That was before car seats. Just sit on there. I'm driving with them. They're driving on the street, and I'm driving with them on the lap. God is saying, son, daughter, let me get on my lap. We're going to drive together. He ain't going to drive for you. He's going to drive with you. This wisdom is the key. It's the key to your acceleration. This wisdom is the key to your faith. This wisdom is the key to your confidence, the key to your clarity, the key to your courage, the key to your focus and concentration. This wisdom is the key to your creativity, certainty. But it starts with one thing. We got to change. We can't have these things until we change something. And what do we change? We change our mind. That's what repent is. We change our minds to understand the power that God has placed in us, to focus on the person of being, to focus on this power of wisdom and how we're already connected to it, and how all we have to do is ask for it and believe, because when we don't believe, we ain't getting it. So today, I can tell you for sure, breakthrough is here for you and for anybody, any person who's looking for breakthrough. It's in the power of wisdom, but it all starts with change. So change your mind today. Whatever you thought yesterday, change it. Whatever you thought last week, change it. Whatever you thought last year, change it. Because if those things don't actually get you to where you would like to go, then that means we must change. That's what wisdom does. Wisdom will change you, and it will change your life, and it will change everything around you. Power of wisdom is so powerful. Go read 1 Kings, the 3rd chapter, and go back and read James chapter 1. That whole chapter, we only read a few verses there, but read those whole chapters and allow those chapters to sink in today, as the power of wisdom is available to all of us through change. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the Healthy Accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.